Probably I need to work on my punning a bit more. I was going to do Halloween Spooktacular, but I thought that's a bit too obvious, so I thought we'd go for Halloween Spookial special.
That didn't really work, though, did it? I mean,
No,
it was, you know, I mean, however much of an old cliche Spooktacular might have been, at least it works.
Yeah,
I told you this repeatedly, but you wouldn't listen to me.
I wouldn't listen to you. No.
Never do.
I'm still shell shocked from watching. I'm still shell shocked from watching the first of the Nigel Neal anthology series in the 70s called Beasts, and it was a kind of like a first one is about a poltergeist thing in a like a supermarket. Genuinely 1970s disturbing television. You know, all done on videotape, and it's all got that kind of like slightly hammy kind of RADA ensemble cast. But you know what? It just still something about it that just makes you go, ooh, didn't like that. I enjoyed it, but I didn't like it, you know? Anyway, everybody, welcome to the Interesting Modelling Company Halloween Spookial.
No, moving on.
We are, well, here we are tonight. We've got some various bits and pieces to talk about. Adds a background. There you go. That's a good background. We've got some various bits and pieces to talk about tonight. We've got some news items. We've got project updates, and various other things. So, Drew, what have you been up to during the week?
If I'm honest, it's all been about moving Mum. For the most part. So yeah, it's all been busy. Mum's now safely installed at my brother's and my sister-in-law's house. So yeah, it's been so really. If I go to the vertical, this, I mean, it's a couple of weeks on now, but we're slowly getting to the point now where we're starting to bring it together. All the decals are on. A couple of coats. It needs another coat of varnish because it's not completely smooth. Yeah, how I want it to be, and then we'll just start working on things like the undercarriage and things like that. So I finished the brass-in Shafir 2 missiles for the pylons, for the outboard pylons, which people think are just sidewinders, but they're actually quite different. The sidewinders are different dimensions all over compared to a sidewinder. They're fatter and stubbier. So yeah, those, and also things like, which means that I can, I've got all the pylons in place, so the drop tanks, which will make a nice contrast, I think, to the finish when they're on there.
Very nice.
So yeah, that's where we are. It's the only sort of project I'm actively pursuing, shall we say, at the moment. I mean, other stuff sort of on the bench, if you like. I've got this this Hasegawa F4E is still sort of in the decal stage, shall we say, but it's just kind of hanging around the bench, not doing much at the moment. I must crack on with that.
What inspired you? Because I know the world's gone a bit F4 crazy at the moment. What inspired you to go back and build the old Hasegawa one?
The fact that I've got 27 of them in the stash.
No, okay, fair enough.
It was done as a comparison thing, because I had the fine molds one, and I was sort of thinking, you know, I wasn't that impressed with some of the fine molds one. Some of the stuff fine molds did. So I was sort of like thinking, I'm sure Hasegawa tackled this better 30 years ago. So I got one out and started building it to sort of remind myself. And sure enough, stuff like this, this belly plate here, where the belly plate includes the entire sparrow bay there, and the fine molds one, where you can see there's a join line right through the middle of the forward sparrow bay on the fine molds one. And it was just kind of things like that were making me think, you know, I'm sure fine molds did some better stuff. Hasegawa did it more logically 30 years ago.
Mm.
So I just decided to build one and check, and it seemed to sort of take on a life of its own and accelerate past the fine molds one, if you like. But I mean, the fine molds one, I've sort of getting now to the stage where that's ready for. I've started doing some little bits of paint on the underside and stuff just to see how it's going down. But yeah, those are the projects that I'm sort of mainly on. But I mean, the two Phantoms are just kind of hanging around, doing bits and bobs. You know, sort of a half an hour here and a half an hour there while the Mirage is drying in certain places, but the Mirage is still kind of the focus, if you like.
Very good, David.
Very good, David.
Very good. Yeah, we hadn't even, honestly, we hadn't even planned that.
But as you can see behind me, there's still some. You know, I'm still buying fine molds Phantoms, so it's not like I've been put off to the point where I'm not prepared to indulge it, if you like, because it's still. I mean, it is still the best 72nd scale Phantom on the market at this point by a margin, even with the illogical design choices they've made in some areas. So, hey, so that's might be my week. What about you?
Well, I've had a kind of like a kind of mixture of a week off, and well, as you know, I kind of been on my travels, and I went I went to East Cranmore railway station, which is the East Somerset Railway, which I've never been to before, and I finished there during the day, and there's one of their trains there. Lovely little place, and I suddenly realised, well, we're only like 6 miles away from Frome. So I just popped into the Frome Model Centre, said hello to Luke, picked up some bits and pieces, some more those lovely SMS paints. Also, that Dora Wings P43. So I got the one, I've got the different one to what you've got.
Right.
I'm almost tempted to do like a live unboxing of that. No, we've already done that. We won't do that again. So that was good fun. And then the next day, I went on the West Somerset Railway. And ended up at Friday Street Sweets and Models, which is a fantastic little model shop. It really is.
Where's that?
Sorry?
Where's that?
Minehead.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Apparently, it's been there for about 3 years. It's well worth a trip there.
Sweets and Models. That feels like something from the childhood, doesn't it?
It is, and it's a lovely chap who runs it, and I was having a chat to him and everything. But I did pick up I've forgotten the name of the company now. I'm just brain's gone freezing. They do those beautiful hurricane kits.
Armour.
Yeah. I picked up one of the Armour Hurricanes, and
okay.
Oh boy, yeah, that is nice.
Yeah. Well, which one did you pick up?
I picked up it's not a Sea Hurricane, but it's like Royal Navy Hurricanes.
Okay.
Yeah, I was that or the one that had the Australian ones. But then I thought, I've still got those Hataka Fleet Arm lacquers to try out.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'll do a Sea Hurricane, because that means I can then build the Armour Wildcat I've got. I can do it as a sea blue gloss one. But honestly, if I'm hopefully, fingers crossed, might be back in Minehead in a few weeks' time. Yeah, I think I might relieve him of the other one. So it's a good little model shop. Very impressed.
But yeah, all of Armour's stuff in the last, the Hurricanes, the Wildcats, stuff like that, they're all top flight, absolute top flight models.
What I was going to say was, unfortunately, I haven't got it to hand at the moment. But the thing and I can't get up and get it because I've got, I can't get up and get it because I've got the co-presenter here, the co-host. But the thing is, what impressed me with that Armour Hurricane was, to me, it's the baseline for how you do a 72nd scale aircraft kit. It's not massively overcomplicated. Most of it is contained on one sprue.
And you can, and if you buy the simpler boxings they do, you can build it without any without any etch or anything like that. It's this is the one I got.
Yeah, this is the one I got. It's just the basic. It's the basic vanilla kit. But everything in it, I looked at it and I thought everything in this is precisely what you want from a kit in 2021. The price, the detail,
it's breakdown, top flight stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty much kind of like, it is literally a gnat's crotchet in terms of that between them and Tamiya for quality.
Well, I built the
Really-
Mark 1. Did a South African one from Mark 1.
Yeah.
And very, very
So,
nice too.
Yeah. So yeah, so I caught the steam train to Minehead. So there we go. There's the steam train heading towards the sea, and I had quality food in Minehead. Oh, I tell you what, that's the best jacket potato, cheese and beans I've had this year. It just phenomenal. It was really good, and there's a nice little picture there of Minehead Harbour.
That's pretty, isn't it?
Yeah, it is lovely. It's nice to be there. It was just nice to be back down in Minehead again. It had a nice atmosphere. It was like typical windy, squally October afternoon, a bit dark, and it was just like perfect.
And hopefully everybody else stays at home and you can have the place to yourself.
Pretty much that was it. It was a little bit of half-term traffic still there, but apart from that, absolutely splendid. So yeah, it felt like I've had a bit of a holiday this week, although part of it was working, but hey ho. So anyway, what I'm going to do is we're going to jump to my workshop camera. Here we go. We have been sent some bits and pieces by Colin at Freight Dog, and I did put some pictures up on the page, but we will just go through these to show you what you get in these sets. And essentially, if I just fold the instruction sheet out, what you get is the anti-shimmy tail wheel. Let's get these bits out. You get a new kind of corrected Bombay. Oh. And you get some bulges, the Monica bulges for the end of the tail as well. Just there. And so essentially this is to and also the petrol cooler. There's the petrol cooler. So this is to kind of improve and update the basic Airfix kit. Very nicely done, very neatly cast and mastered. I think the mastering was by Paul Lucas. And you also do get, Freight Dog. Finally, he's got off my lap. Oh, I've got a numb leg now. Freight Dog do include a colour instruction sheet with some very copious notes in there. So unlike, I think you can remember some accessory sets from the past. Where,
there's a lot of people, there's a lot of manufacturers even now could learn a lot from that.
Yeah, they tend to be a little bit on the vague side. And the other set that Freight Dog sent us is, opens up the package, is a conversion set to a Mark 16 with the H2S radar. So, and actually you get 2 sets of instructions for this. So what you essentially get is the HS2 radar itself and a blanking piece for the rear of the fuselage on the underside. You get the petrol cooler again, you get the Monica fairing and the anti-shimmy tail wheel. And you also get a brand new, you can just see that there. Let's get it out of the packet. It's essentially the same as the other pack, but with the HS2 radar and other bits and pieces. And you also get a brand new instrument panel. So overall, very, very nicely done. Very impressive little package. Like I say, very comprehensive. And I think what we're going to do is we'll check around amongst us to see who's building a Mosquito at the moment, because these really do need to be put into operation. Failing that, if we have one of our viewers out there is building is about to build an Airfix Mosquito and would like to incorporate these bits and pieces into it, then we will gladly send it to you. On the proviso, though, that you do have to catalogue and share your work on the Interesting Modelling Company page. But so if somebody out there wants either of these Freight Dog sets to improve their Airfix Mosquito,
if somebody's looking to start a Mosquito very, very soon and fancies that, then yes,
we'll use them.
That's the point. It's not a case of we don't want to be shipping stuff out to go into stashes.
No, this is we will gladly share this with somebody out there. We will share the wealth with somebody out there on the proviso that you do actually have to use it. So if there's any takers, give us a shout and we will we will get in contact with you because you I know if you got one or not, or you've already built yours, haven't you?
I've built mine, so yeah.
Yeah, you built yours. Dave Swindle says it's not Monica. Oh, well, they said Monica on the instruction sheets. I should read the instruction sheets a bit more clearly, but I'm just seeing what the comments here. David Hansen says right now getting the airfix kit here in the States is an issue. Yes. Yes. Anyway, and Matt Whiting says living the dream, JM. Honestly, Matt, I just to spend the day in a wet and rainy seaside town, drinking tea and having jacket potatoes and eating chocolate cake, because I was going to have the lemon drizzle cake, but then the girl bringing it out dropped it on the floor, so I had to have the.
It was the last slice.
It was the last slice. It really was. So yes, a big thanks to Colin at Freight Dog for supplying those to us. And if you head over to www.freightdogmodels.co.uk, you can buy them there and also see some of the other stuff that he's got. So a big thanks to Colin. Shall we crack on with our pick of the week?
We got a pick of the week.
No, our pick of the week in terms of the news items.
Yeah, I mean, what we're going to start with then? Yes. I'm still slightly. This is the border model, 35th scale Junkers 87 G2, isn't it? And I'm a big fan of the late Stukas. I like the very early Stukas, the A, and I like the very late ones, the G2 specifically with the big wings. I'm still a little bit sort of discombobulated, shall we say, at the choice of 35th scale. It's trying to bring it into that sort of armor thing, but it feels like it's fragmenting the landscape a little bit, if you know what I mean.
Border have they put up some CAD
I mean, it looks utterly fabulous.
Yeah.
I mean, there's even one picture of a test shot there later in the series, isn't there?
Yeah. So these are CAD renders, and they've been talking about how they've been adding detail to it. I certainly have no qualms about how they are tooling it, because at the moment it does look utterly spectacular. It really eye-wateringly good. Look at that.
Yeah, but I mean that's a render. We need that. There's actually a picture of that section.
I'm just bringing that picture up, and there it is. And
so it looks pretty much as good.
Yeah, but I'm with you. 35th scale for these kind of aircraft. There are certain things I think that certain aviation subjects that do work in 35th scale, and I would tend to say they are things like helicopters, because you have that kind of natural crossover with figures and things. They've done the 109, which I still want to get hold of one to see what it's like, and now they're doing this Junkers 87 G1/G2 Stuka. I have seen people saying things like, "Oh, great, you can do it in a diorama with a T-34." I'm trying to work out the logistics of that.
How would you do it? Yeah. The logistics involved getting a hangar of your own to scale it.
Yeah, it's one of those things that turns up as comments quite a bit, but I'm thinking, have we really kind of thought that out? And again, I don't want to talk down this, because it looks absolutely spectacular. Are there enough armor modelers in 35th scale who want to build aircraft to that scale, or are there enough aircraft modelers who are prepared to make the switch from 32nd scale to build something in 35th scale? Now, we've seen this with ICM, haven't we, with their with some of their recent things.
Yeah, because they're doing the Cobra in 35th and 30. They've done it in 32nd, and now they're talking about they're going to do it in 35th scale, which, for a 5%, 6% difference in size. I mean, I kind of see Brian Wilton there saying, I don't get what the problem is with the choice between 35th and 32nd unless you're posing them next to each other. But it just feels like a little bit of a fragmentation of the landscape, and modelers. Well, speaking for myself, I don't know about anybody else, but I can be quite sensitive to that sort of thing. not visually, just the knowledge that it's not the same scale. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I mean, if you'd asked me personally, I would rather all the helicopters were 32nd scale because it's still an aircraft to me. But that's a personal that's a personal thing. I get why they're done in 35th. But I mean, that said, it looks glorious. It looks gloriously detailed, and the and that test shot, the picture of that test shot shows that what they're showing in the renders is pretty much carrying across to the test shots, isn't it? It just looks absolutely beautifully done.
I'm with you. I do wonder whether it. I mean, obviously, if it makes money for Border and it sells, then what do we know? But I just think it's that kind of like it's kind of like falling between two stools of are there enough armor modelers who it's going to appeal to? Are there enough aircraft modelers that it's going to appeal to? And I think were this to be coming out in 32nd scale, I think my personal opinion is I think it would resonate a bit more.
Yeah, I think you're right. Let's be honest. I mean, there's 1,000,001 diorama possibilities for it, but none of them involve a T-34, and they all involve an Opel Blitz or two, and maybe a Kettengrad and stuff like that.
And to be honest, also it was Tim Campbell who said that about the scales, not Brian Wilton.
Was it? Sorry, I thought it was. I do apologise.
His innocence there. To be honest with you, when it comes to
they're all guilty of something. They're all guilty.
Absolutely. When it comes to mixing scales, I don't have that many qualms about mixing 35th scale vehicles with 32nd scale aircraft because, by and large, I genuinely don't think you can spot, because you're talking about two completely disparate subject things. And in any case, Francois Verlinden and Shep Payne and the late great Louis Pruneau used to do it all the time. And so I think, well, if they could do it and get away with it, I'm really not going to be that bothered about it. But
you see Matt Whiting there saying 48 scale armor, which would work well for dioramas, doesn't sell either. But then Tamiya have been selling it for nearly 2 decades now, extremely successfully. So it's which is kind of a shame that it's not more widespread because it's my very, very favorite scale for armor of them all. I think it's the perfect armor scale. Do you know what? I don't think Matt's wrong there. There's a fairly small cohort of people making dioramas, day to day. I always look at it and think it's a great idea, then kind of run out of steam by the time I've finished the piece of armor, and then go, I can't be bothered. I want to move on to the next, the next model subject. But I think probably the diorama scene is a bit smaller and more specialist than perhaps we.
It takes a certain level of commitment. Let's put it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's the thing. It takes the ability to view the entire diorama as a project rather than something that you put your project into.
Yeah, which is the difference between dioramas and vignettes, isn't it?
Yeah. But even vignettes, you look at even a simple vignette, still takes, a considerable input in time and effort.
Yeah. John Patrick Swarbrick says, I have the Border 109 on the way. Look forward to it. Yeah, do you know what? I mean, again, we're trying to balance this out. Is that in terms of, an actual kind of modeling project, I'm definitely going to try and get hold of one of the Border 109s because I want to see what it looks like. I'd certainly like to build it and just, catalog and enjoy the experience. I'm just going to have to put it to the back of my mind that it's not like I've got other 32nd scale aircraft I'm going to display it with, but to me it's going to be a little bit of a kind of like a this is almost going back to 1975 when Airfix made the decision: do we do our new line of military stuff? Do we do it in 32nd scale or do it in 35th? And they decided to do the Crusader, the Rommel's half track, the Lee and the Grant and the 17-pounder gun. They did those all in 32nd scale at the time when 35th scale armor suddenly went whoom into the stratosphere.
Yeah.
So I just think I'm just wondering. Good luck to Border. I mean, like I say, we don't want to talk the project down, but does it have enough of a market? We will,
because you're always trying to create a market, aren't you?
Yeah.
You're always
We
trying to
will quite
create a
happily
market.
eat our own words. Mr. Krupovich says, trust me, once you see 30 seconds, 35th scale models of the same subject together, you realize how noticeable the difference is and how much smaller 35th scale model is. Yeah, absolutely. I think the method where you can sometimes dodge that is if, say, you had a 32nd scale 109 or a 32nd scale Stuka and you had a 35th scale Opel Blitz, because you've not got anything there to make that direct comparison. You can kind of like fudge it. Like you say,
Yeah,
you fudge it a little bit.
If you're putting two identical subjects in different scales next to each other, it's going to show up. If you're putting disparate subjects together, perhaps you can sort of wangle it a bit more, shall we say?
Yeah. But as I say, it does look fabulous, and we look forward to seeing more updates on this because it's a new kit, and as I was saying the other day, more new kits to come out this year up until about August than the entirety of the 1980s. So let's just put it this way: do you remember back in the 80s, Drew, when people used to say, "Oh, I can't keep up with the amount of new kit releases"?
Yes. When it used to fill one page of a magazine once a year if we were lucky.
Wow. Right, we will move on. We will move on swiftly, and we'll move on to something that we have mentioned on this show before, but we are going to mention it again because it's that close to coming out now, and that is ICM's Laffy V15 tractor or clown car, whatever you want to call it.
Eight-wheeled oddity.
Yes, eight-wheeled oddity. ICM have just put up some pictures this week. I think they're a mixture of CAD renders and sprue shots, but it does give you a kind of like a flavour of the kit. And yeah, this is going to be my Christmas project, quite frankly. I'm just they haven't posted that many pictures, but as you can see, it does give you an idea on the underside there of this odd kind of mixture of terrain crossing ability, I think is the best way of putting it.
I wonder how good it was.
Well,
I kind of think from the fact that the idea never caught on.
Yes,
that's
a good point.
Was it one of those? Was it one of those great ideas thought up in a meeting somewhere that never quite sort of panned out in real life, shall we say? It'd be interesting, but that aside, that's an irrelevance to the subject itself and kind of like
It's bizarre how this happened to me 18 months ago with the Mini Art Lands Bulldog. I never realised how much I really wanted to build something until I saw one of them, and I thought it kind of like scratches your itch, if you don't understand what I mean. And I've looked at that and I thought, I could just have so much fun with that kit. So so we're definitely gonna get one of them as and when it comes out. Moving on, this is something that is not unexpected, and I think this is something right up your street, Drew. And this is Zvezda are doing
the twin seat Sturmovik, aren't they?
Yeah, they're doing the what do we call this? The 3M, don't we?
Yeah, because they did the single seat one last year, didn't they? Or earlier this year, sort of late last year. I haven't actually seen one. One of the sort of downsides of one of the many downsides of COVID, if you like, is the fact that I just haven't seen this kit in any because whilst I'd like to build it, it's not really a core part of my interests, if you know what I mean.
I thought, I seem to remember you built. Sorry, my voice has gone so high there. I think only dogs can hear it. I seem to remember. That's better. Puberty's kicked in. I seem to remember you built the Tamiya kit a few years ago.
Yeah, I built the Tamiya one, but that was largely as a tester for MRP paints because I got my first lot of MRP paints. And I was looking for a quick, easy build. And let's be honest, you're not going to get a quicker and easier build than a Tamiya 72nd scale kit, are you?
This is true.
I mean, having said that, it's not that the type doesn't interest me because it's a fantastic and fantastically important type. And I'd be very much interested in building one.
I'm actually surprised neither of us have.
Yes.
Yeah. In fact, we'll come to this in a second. because these, like I say, these are just CAD renders showing you the various options for the kind of like sliding canopy and bits and pieces. But yeah, it does look it does look rather neat. And for anybody who keeps wondering, well, why are Zvezda doing one when Tamiya already do one? Well, essentially, a Tamiya IL-2 doesn't make any money for Zvezda, and it's a Russian aeroplane by a Russian kit manufacturer.
And I would also be prepared to wager that the Zvezda one will have a lot more detail and probably be more accurate.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're talking like, I mean, it's good 15 years since the Tamiya one even. So stuff is always coming to light. So I would probably say that the Zvezda one will be the choice for the more exacting modeler who's prepared to put a bit more effort in, and the Tamiya one will remain the choice for for the more run of the mill average hobbyist, like, well, us really.
I've got all the accurate miniatures ones up in the loft somewhere.
Yes, yeah.
They're beautifully molded, but they're not very accurate.
Dave, this is Dave Swindell there saying it's 72nd. Now this is 48 scale.
Yeah, it's 48 scale. Yeah. In fact, I've just gone to their to the website to hang about. That's there we go. I've gone to the website and had a look at the instruction sheet for this. And I tell you what, I definitely do want to build one now, because look at that one.
That's the original single seater one. That's
yeah. This is the single seater one, but look at that scheme.
Yeah.
That is, yeah. I like that. I mean, I like that one, but that one, boy, I really do like that one. Yeah, it was. I think it was quite obvious when this kit came out that, yeah, of course, Zvezda were going to do a 2-seater. But yeah, it's coming soon. So who knows? Perhaps it will be added to our
38,000 aircraft to choose from. Most produced aircraft in history, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's a phenomenal aeroplane.
Most produced military aircraft in history. I think one of the Cessnas, they built more of those as civilian. Somewhere over 40,000. Yes, I think it is a metal winged one. Yeah, but yeah, it's certainly the most produced military aircraft in history. Something like 38,000. So,
I built the Airfix one years and years ago. Boy, that wing.
Yeah,
have you ever built it?
I haven't. It's one of those ones that was never really. If you could find an old boxing of it, it was fine, but it was never really released throughout the sort of from the mid 70s onwards. It was never really re-released. So
it was re-released in the late 1980s, about 1988, because I remember being in betas. It was one of the first ones where they brought back box art, and it had a painting on the front by James Goulding. So I thought, oh yeah, I'm having that. And I built it, and I had fun with it. But it was only later on when I actually learned a bit more about the Stormovik did I suddenly look at it and think, yeah, back in the 60s, they kind of like, essentially they put like Spitfire wings on it. They're just, the one key thing about the Stormovik is it has those big fat wings.
Oh, they're big planks. They're
big
gigantic planks of wings.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not a great
kit, designed to be built fast by a large amount of unskilled labor and pushed out onto the battlefield to get on with the job.
Are we talking about the real thing or the kit?
Well, either or. But it's actually been a very, very extensively kitted aircraft in the last 20 or 30 years. A lot of Eastern European manufacturers have had a pop at it, and then in 72nd scale, various manufacturers have had a go at it, and then 48 scale with the accurate miniatures, and then Tamiya, and now we're on to Zvezda. So it's actually, I mean, and rightly so, you'd argue, given its huge production numbers, and certainly in the top 5 most important aircraft of all time, I would suggest. Just for the fact that so many of them saw service in World War II, and
Well, it
you know,
literally was. It literally was the aerial equivalent of the T-34, wasn't it? It
yeah,
was what it
you know,
lacked in finesse. It was made up for in sheer attritional numbers.
yeah.
You know,
We tend to have a very westernized view of what the most important aircraft are, and you know, people tend to think World War II, and you know, people say Spitfire and Mustang and stuff, and I always say, well, the most important Allied aircraft of World War II was either the Hellcat or the C-47, and the most important outside of that was arguably the IL-2. Always good for an argument, I think. Always good
I
for an
can
argument.
remember reading an interview with Bruce Dickinson of Iron Maiden. He was on a flight with somebody, and the interviewer said that he got into a very heated discussion with somebody on the plane about what the most important battle tank of the Second World War was. And this gentleman was of the view it was the Sherman. And
T-34.
Bruce Dickinson said it was the
T-34.
T-34, obviously.
Obviously, yeah. I don't. You know, I would say, well, and again, it's that peculiarly westernized sort of perspective on it that we don't. You know, you tend to go, well, what about the T-34? And people go, oh yeah, because we just simply don't. We don't consider it.
We're a bit parochial, I think is the phrase.
Yeah, exactly, exactly that. And you know, outside of the T-34, yeah, the Sherman, without a doubt, you know, as a 1-2, it's difficult. It's difficult to argue. None of the German tanks were important at all.
No, and
none of them were ever available in the numbers or anything like that to have any lasting impact on the outcome of the war.
And that's a beautiful segue, because the next subject we're looking at tonight is, we're going back to Border Model again, and they're doing a subject that I have always found it interesting, and that is the Panzer II Ausf L, the Lynx or the Lux. And this, I remember decades ago, I just thought this was like one of those like little paper project things. No, it wasn't. It actually saw service, and in limited numbers, admittedly. But it's one of those things.
Little tank. I like that.
It is, and also because it does have that slight Panzer II lineage to it. This massively appeals to me. There is one down at Bovington as well, which is always good for reference picks and things. But yeah, this Border have released some CAD renders of this, and it does look to be quite a tidy little model. I know I said this 6 months ago. Oh, I'm definitely going to buy the Crusader when it comes out. Then I saw the parts count and how many bits and pieces going to the tracks, and I thought, oh no, I'll be building this for about 6 months. But this does look a little bit more manageable. But yeah, tiny little thing. But goodness me, isn't that busy?
That's a pretty little tank. I like that. That's
it's got a good balance to it.
Yeah. No, I do like that.
And they do include quite a bit of interior there for the gun breech and the inside of the turret, and photo
experts. What size is that main gun? Is it 30 or 40 millimeters, something like that?
Yeah, something like that. Without remembering what it is, it was essentially it was a kind of like a, best way of describing it was almost like a cross between a tank and an armored car. It just had that kind of cross.
Yeah. Well, it looks kind of nippy and nimble, doesn't it?
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
I like that.
Yeah, this definitely will be on the shopping list as and when it comes out, because as people know, that I do like the Panzer I and the Panzer II series. And oh god, yeah, just remember TACOM. We've got to get one of their Panzer I kits. Oh goodness me, we need to clear some projects here. But this does look fabulous though, and like I say, it's a compact little tank. And I know you're not massively keen on German tanks, but I think that kind of appeals to you in a slight way.
I do like it. I would say probably not enough to want to build it, but I kind of enough that I'd like to see someone else build it.
Well, this is why I'm going to get the TACOM Panzer I kit, because you can build it as an OSF A or a B. So you get two kits in the box, and you can build it as an A or a B. So yeah, I think what we're going to probably do it the new year actually, is have a Panzer I build-off challenge, and we're both going to build it. I'm going to do one, you're going to do another, and then we'll just and then you're going to build a German tank and be grateful for it. So That's what I'm saying on that.
I mean, although I will say at the moment I'm falling down a little bit of a rabbit hole where I really want to build a couple of Shermans, because I'm listening to the audiobook of James Holland's Brothers in Arms, and not only is it completely captivating, but it really makes you want to build build some Shermans.
Now, when you say you want to build Sherman, are you going to be fussy about what variant you're going to build?
I want to build a 75mm and a Firefly, because they're the two that the Sherwood Foresters used. You know, in the classic, you know, the Firefly was held back for, you know, when something badly needed, you know, when something was needed to finish the job, shall we say. But what I'm picking up from this book is that the actual 75mm did the majority of the work, and very well too, because it had such an enormous rate of fire. You know, they're saying in the book that when they got eyes on a German tank, it was a case of they were getting off, in some cases they were getting off sort of 10 rounds a minute into, you know, of 75mm to this, you know, onto the enemy tank. And they're saying as soon as you start firing at the enemy tank stops firing, because they're so sort of caught up in trying to deal with being fired at. They're not firing back themselves, and so they could sort of keep them occupied until other vehicles came on the scene to help them finish the job. It's it's very interesting stuff, compared to what you would think, shall we say?
I think to use a footballing metaphor, the Firefly was literally the super striker you brought off the subs bench.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing you're getting from this is that it wasn't actually. I love the Firefly. I think it's a fantastic vehicle, but it didn't actually appear to be doing as much of the heavy lifting as you'd expect, even against the Tigers. The 75mm is still doing the majority of the action, because if you've got two of these 75mm firing 10 or 15 rounds a minute each into this vehicle, it doesn't take a lot before the crew just bail out.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether those rounds are penetrating the armor of the tank or not, when you're on the receiving end of that amount of incoming fire, you just end up bailing out of the tank and leaving it. So, although it wasn't technically knocked out by the 75mm, it was out of the battle, and then captured. It's fantastic, and it kind of makes me go back and look at the 75mm and go, right, now I need to do some research on the vehicles of the Sherwood Foresters to build a couple of representative vehicles. I cannot recommend the book highly enough. I have trouble finding time to read these days because I'm doing so much other stuff. So I bought the audiobook on Audible, and I'm listening to it at work through headphones and when I'm driving around in the car. And it's narrated by Al Murray, so it's a great narration as well.
In fact, you've just reminded me, I've got an Audible token to use up tonight, so I am going to order that. And,
yes, I honestly, I would really, really highly recommend it. It's very, very, because it's dealing with personalities as well.
I met one of them.
Yes, you did. Yeah, Stan, was it?
Yeah, Captain Stan Perry, the late Captain Stan Perry. Yeah, man.
But it's dealing with characters as much as the technical details of the battles, and it's very, very, engrossing stuff. Really, really highly recommended.
And are we of the opinion that the Sherman Firefly was certainly the best looking of the Sherman variants?
Well, yeah, I'm not going
to. Well, I say that because you've got sub variants of the Firefly. I tend to prefer the 5C with the full side skirts and everything, the proper Matchbox one, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is that you're immediately into looking at, even the 75mm and the Firefly, looking into exactly which variants of it the Sherwood Foresters used. Although it's also made me go sideways, and I'm looking sort of at Cromwell's and stuff as well, because they were not with the Sherwood Foresters, but they were kind of in the same. Do
you want a Cromwell kit? Got one here.
Yeah, I do.
Got an Airfix Cromwell kit here.
Yeah.
All right, there you go.
Yeah. So
that's one out of the way then.
So yeah, honestly, people, if you want a thoroughly engrossing read, whichever format, either the audiobook or the full book or whatever, Brothers in Arms by James Holland will just make you want to get to the bench ASAP. So there's what your token can be spent on. There you go.
Yeah, that's what my token. In fact, as soon as the show's finished in what are we? 14 minutes time. That is exactly what I'm going to do. Head over to Audible.
And if you sat at the bench modelling or something, and put that on in the background.
Yeah,
it's just
absolutely.
it's just you have something that you're listening to and taking it in as well. I find it's not, you can take it in while you're doing other stuff. But the Padre, honestly, what a hero, what a guy.
I'm actually listening to a BBC podcast at the moment, which it's a kind of like I think they call it a docudrama, but it's about the Nuremberg trials, and it's actually very good.
Right.
It's quite revealing, especially with regard to the security measures that the Allies put in once they started really kind of gathering them all in one place. And it's some of the acting's a bit hammy, but it's factually it's actually pretty much on the mark. So if you head over to BBC Sounds and look up, I think it's called Nuremberg. It is worth your time. Trust me. We'll go on to the last of the picks of the week this week, and goodness me, wouldn't be an interesting modelling show without a mention for mini art.
I love how specific that is.
Yeah. Although I as soon as I saw this, I did notice one glaring error.
What? Right, we could be here for hours. So
all right. It's something, Drew, that actually you're usually quite hot on. No,
I'm looking, but I can't really.
It's the errant use of an apostrophe in 40s.
Oh, do you know what? I was looking at all the signs.
No.
I was looking for an error with the signs, not with the title.
No. Italian traffic signs, 1930s, 40s is how I read that. It's the 1940s traffic signs. So I won't be buying this set on the basis of a terrible grammar. No, of course I will.
Yeah.
There's a picture of me somewhere, if you remember, when we came out of the corner cafe once, and there was like a builder's sign, and they put something up, and they'd left apostrophes on one and the things off, and I was actually there with a Sharpie pen, actually correcting it. The adventures we have, people. You've been in cafes where they've got the menu and they've had apostrophes in the wrong place, and you're there wiping them off on the chalkboard with your thumb. I've seen you do it. Anyway, this looks rather neat.
I miss the corner cafe, or the good days, I should say.
Yeah, well, here we are. So this is rather useful. This is another one of these little sets for people like me who occasionally do forays into dioramas or vignettes. This is something that you can just buy. I wouldn't call this something. I wouldn't call this one of those things that qualifies as an unbuilt stash thing, because you would go into this set and you would cherry pick.
These are like all of these mini art things. They're stuff that are just going to sit in a pile and be pulled out to grab one or two specific bits of for a project.
Yeah, you don't build them you don't build them to clear the sprues. You just go in there and grab the bits and pieces you want. Which is just as well. There aren't any model shops in the area that have massive stocks of mini art, because I would drain my debit card quicker than the water company dumping effluents into a river. But it would. This just looks fabulous, apart from the apostrophe, obviously. This gets a big thumbs up for me, because I can see this being one of those things that, as I say, I'm going to get it and then dip into it for particular dioramas and vignettes. And it's mini art.
It's mini art.
We love mini art. So that's our picks of the week. Another thing, right? Okay, we are going to settle something here, because whilst I was in Minehead, I did switch his camera. I did go to the trouble of actually getting a tin of Humbrol Matte 30 dark green. Now, there's been a lot of talk about was this color reformulated, and some people have said yes, it has been. Some people say no, it hasn't. When I picked up the tin, I thought, well, this is encouraging, because certainly the color bar on the top there does look more like an olivey dark green, a bit like 163. So I got a tin, bought a tin, and on the end of the wing there, pop, there we go. You can see I brushed out a section there. This is my test mule Spitfire. So ignore the other colours on there. It's that colour on the end, on that wingtip that you're looking at, which is what you want to be kind of like a dark green. And it's essentially, it's still that very blue, dark green of Humboldt 30 of old.
It's not RAF dark green, is it, by any stretch?
No, it's just a bit too blue and a bit too cold. I think some people say it's a very good dark sea green or something, or sea green from the map kind of color range. But no, it hasn't been reformulated. It is still to the same color mix. Now, some people are going to say, why do they still keep putting Humboldt 30 on the instruction sheets? And there's a very good reason for that, and that is that not a lot of model shops, or even shops that stock Humboldt paint, stock the full range of Humboldt paint. And in fact, case in point, this week, that when I was in the little model shop in Minehead, he's only got space for a small paint locker. And so his paint locker has got all the basic Humboldt paints, just the basic Humboldt paints in there, of which 30 is one of the basic ones. So there's a reason why 30 keeps getting cited for, on Airfix kits. It's because the most widespread color that people can get their hands on. So the cognoscenti will use whatever they want to use, but
yeah, I mean, as soon as you've learned a little bit about what you're supposed to be doing, you'll do the research needed to get the exact correct color.
Yeah.
But these are the small racks that small corner shops and bits of toy shops will have, rather than model shops. So kind of hamstrung a little bit.
Yeah. So we've answered the question there. No, it hasn't been reformulated, but why does it keep being used when it's the color isn't the most accurate color out there? It's because it's the most available color out there. So there we go. Everything's a compromise in life, isn't it?
Sadly, yes. Talking of colours, I was talking to you earlier. I picked this up this week, which is the AK third generation colours. It occurred to me that they've been out a couple of years, and I haven't actually used any of them or bought any of them. And I hadn't realised they'd done a series of air-specific colours. I thought it was just still the generic range. So I ordered this set this week just to have a look what we were getting. Great value for money. It's 8 different paints, which allow you to do everything from sort of the Battle of Britain through to the end of the war in the Middle East as well. So it's a great variety of colours.
Are they water-based acrylics, or are they?
They are true acrylics. What I call true acrylics. So they're water-based. They're water-based acrylics. So I'm prepared for disappointment with them, because I don't traditionally like water-based acrylics.
Like Vallejo Air, then.
Like Vallejo Air.
Yeah.
In my tests, they are better.
Okay.
To be absolutely fair, they do spray a lot better than the old Vallejo Air and stuff, but still not really up to, the quality of lacquers or anything like that.
Lacquers and
there's
lacquers,
there's a lot less tip dry when you're spraying general colours, but when you try and tighten down to do fine lines and stuff, you immediately end up with tip dry and stuff like that. In terms of colours, I did spray that. That is theoretically ocean grey and dark green, which I think it's probably the camera isn't picking it up as well. The ocean grey is actually within the bounds of what I would call acceptable. The green, I think, is probably a little bit pale, but it is definitely an olive shade rather than
that cold color,
rather than that cold color. It is warmer. I'm wondering if it would darken down with a coat of varnish over it. If we've got 2 minutes, shall I whack a coat of varnish over that?
Whack a coat of varnish over that.
Right, I'm going to use. Let's have a look then. So what I'm going to use is that which is what your American future is called these days. So, Mike, I thinned it with I've been using Vallejo airbrush thinner. I did try IPA, and it didn't like IPA very much. And I tried Mr. Color leveling, and it didn't really appear to like that very much either. So I've gone back to a pure water-based thinner. So got a little bit in there in the brush. Still got a bit of green paint in there from when I was testing it earlier. So it hasn't actually changed it a great deal, has it? Let's just blow that off. Just dry it off. Then we'll give it another. Blow that off. So I'm not really trying to get a smooth finish here. I'm just checking how it shifts the color.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to say I'm trying to be sort of gracious, but it's not really a very good representation of World War II dark green and ocean grey, is it?
Well, do you know what? I don't find it objectionable. I can't see it in the flesh, but in terms of that image there,
I don't have a problem with the grey. The grey is within bounds. The green, the green for me really isn't really cutting the mustard, I would say.
It's almost like it's a weathered RAF dark green.
Yeah, it's a faded RAF dark green, but the conclusion I've come to is that I would rather do that myself.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Rather than having somebody decide for me.
Yeah.
What it should be. I mean, the other problem is that I know people talk about the ease of cleanup with water-based acrylics, but don't let them dry in your airbrush.
No, I mean you can shift them with some lacquer thinner, but
it's not like a lacquer where if you leave it in the airbrush for a week and forget to clean it out, it literally takes seconds to loosen up. With lacquer, you have to work at it with this. In fact, I've had to give the airbrush a proper clean already, and I've only been experimenting with them for a couple of days, and I've already had to strip the airbrush out once to clean it.
Dave Swindle says, note the comment on the box scale color effect. Well, actually, whilst we're still talking about paints, we will very, very quickly just go to. Oops, Daisy. Let's shut that off. Shut that off.
Well,
there we go.
What it says there is there. It says scale reduction factor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and
I'd have to say it's pretty much a no from me. But hey ho. But I tried it. Now I know. Now from all the. That said, they do brush paint beautifully. So for detail stuff, they do brush paint really, really nicely. So
yeah.
I won't be using them for finishing entire models, but for detail work, I'd be more than happy to use them.
Yeah, we're just going to do a quick. Unfortunately, my OBS camera has decided to stop working again, so I need to get that sorted out by the weekend. So I just switch over to FaceTime, and I'm just going to switch my OBS off and switch it back on again. So start virtual camera. With a bit of luck, that's working now. Now you may have seen my adventures / misadventures this week in using painting my Zvezda Hurricane, and I finally got round. Let's see if it's going to play ball now. No, it's not. How annoying! I finally got round to painting the undersides with the AK Real Color Medium Sea Grey. Which I have to say, I've not adjusted this at all, but
Is that the AK Real Color?
Yeah, the AK Real Color in the jars, and it's got to be said that the actual color difference between their medium sea grey and their ocean grey is not great. It's if to be honest with you, their medium sea grey is probably it's probably actually quite accurate for a 1-to-1 sample, but it's way too dark to me for modelling. It's just you could almost use this as an ocean grey. So
Yeah,
it's. I'm trying to look on the model here at the moment. Unfortunately, like I said, I've lost my webcam here, but the actual tonal difference between the ocean grey and the medium sea grey, it's minimal. But I'm not going to alter it, because one of the reasons why I decided to use them on this model was to see what they're like. Yeah, they spray beautifully, but I do think sometimes some of these AK real colors, some of them are brilliant in terms of the color match. Some of them are interesting, I think it's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, I mean, it's still I still think the best out of the bottle colors I've seen in the last 20-25 years for those colors are the Mysticolor ones. They are absolutely within sort of acceptable tolerance for those colors. I don't think the Tamiya ones are out of tolerance. I like them as well. I think they're possibly the ocean grey is a little bit too blue, but I don't really overthink that. And I know some people think the green is a little bit too olive, but I don't. I think it's really nice.
I like it.
Yeah, I like it. I like it as well. So yeah, I think, you know, if people would say to me, what colors would you use straight out of the pot for those, you know, the RAF temperate scheme, Mysticolor and or the Tamiya ones, XF 81, 82, 83, is it?
You can buy those Mysticolor ones in a little set, can't you? I think I've got the set here actually.
Yes, yeah, they do them.
They do
in fact,
temperate
for a long
scheme.
time, that was the only way you could get them, was in the set. And I think it's only about 2 years ago they released them as individual colors available, because they used to be in 18mm jars. The sets used to come in big 18mm jars, and then they sort of changed that back to 10mm jars, and then they released them on their own. So but yeah, I mean, I don't think they've always been within that band of tolerance that I'm happy to use them. And their sky isn't bad either. It's nice and pale.
Right.
I have to say that AK Sky, the third gen Sky there, looks a lot nicer than the AK real color one, which is miles too dark and green. That one looks quite nice and pale. So
I'll have to keep an eye out for those third gen ones. Yeah, you know me, I'm a sucker. Well,
yeah, and like I say, having tried a few of those and brush painted them a little bit for detail work, I think they're great for detail work. I just, again, wouldn't use them for final finishes, if you like. And they're also that I'm so used to lacquers being very, very hardy. And these have got that water-based acrylic thing where they, you know, you can scratch them very, very easily, and they don't adhere, you know. Whereas with the lacquer-based paints, a primer or an undercoat is a choice.
Yeah,
with these, it's an obligation.
I actually for this Hurricane, I didn't prime it at all. I just went straight to paint on that.
The lacquer colors, it's fine, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I did do some tests spraying that this week onto bare plastic and primed, and onto bare plastic. It's just too fragile for my ham-fisted modelling style, shall we say? So there you go. But at least we do these tests, people, so you don't have to.
Yeah, and if you don't want those, they don't want those AK third gens anymore in the future, and rather than bin them, just put them aside. I'll have them. So.
Yeah, well, I think it was sort of like pass them around for people to test. So,
yeah.
But
any other business
from me? No other business from me. I am available Wednesday.
Excellent. John Marley says, "How do you rate the SMS colours for accuracy?" Well, I've only had limited use of them at the moment. I've used some of their German colours, German armoured colours. I think their German dark yellow is a very yellowy dark yellow, but there's one thing I've learned about German dark yellows, the Dunkelgelbs, is that when you actually look into the history of them, they were all over the place. They really were quite a variety. So, in fact, just bear with. Oh, it reaches over. This was the little plastic soldier company armored car that I painted up in the SMS dark yellow, German dark yellow. I did actually pick up some of their olive drab when I was in Frome on Wednesday. I find the SMS colours spray beautifully. I haven't had any kind of massive issues with the colour matching. The one thing that is notable is that their range doesn't quite cover some quite obvious missing basic things.
I noticed that when I looked at their range, there's some real odd sort of paints missing from it.
There's no neutral grey. Right, so for this P43, I decided that when I get around to building it, I bought the SMS paints for it. I am going to do it in, I got their olive drab, but I should do it in olive drab with dark sea grey undersides, because I looked at the dark sea grey in the shop and I thought, we can probably get away with that. But yeah, and there's things like that. They don't have, they have some RAF World War II colours, but then they don't.
It's the same with the Federal Standard colours. I was looking for some Federal Standard colours just as testers, and there's sort of like, you know, as I remember, for things like the Southeast Asia tan and greens, one of the colours was missing from the range.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, and that is enough for me to go, well, I can't test them because I need the complete, you know, range for a given colour scheme.
Yeah,
really
that's
odd.
what I did. That's what I did when I bought the Tiger Models F5E, and I was looking through the instruction sheet in Frome Model Centre, going, right, I'll get the lacquer paints to match this scheme, and I literally got about 2/3 of them, and I couldn't get the rest. And it's like, so the thing is, I mean, and the guys at SMS are very, you know, they're very open, they're very personable and everything. Is the only thing I'd say at the moment is, can we have some more colours, please?
Can we have the real obvious,
the gaps in the range for some of these things? It's great having Australian colours because they're an Australian manufacturer. It's great having some of the Australian colours like the foliage greens and the camouflage brown. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. That's fantastic. But then you go through the range and it's like, I can't find something which is an RAF dark green. I can't find a neutral grey. So there are key colours that if they were in there, it would be fabulous because it would tighten the range up a bit more. So to answer your question, John, I haven't got any issues with them in terms of their colour accuracy. I haven't really got any issues with them at all. They are a fantastic paint, and actually, as and when you do finally pop up here, you'll have to try them out because I think you'll find they are brilliant. But as you say,
yes, because I haven't. I mean, I thus far I haven't even I haven't used them at all. So, but yeah, I mean, plugging obvious gaps makes them, because if I can't, you know, it's like if I can't get medium sea grey, ocean grey, and dark green, if the dark green's missing, I'm not going to get the other two.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll go to another, you know, I'll go back to Mr. Colour if I can't get one of the colours I need. So it's just those obvious gaps do need plugging. You know, same with the Southeast Asia scheme. If I can get the tan and the dark green, but I can't get the light green, well, I'm not going to get any of those colours. I'm going to go back to Mr. Colour or whoever for, you know, default, because it's good enough. So
right, so there we go. Try it again. Any other business?
No.
Okay. No, I haven't got anything here. I got 20 minutes to prep for the next show. So yes, we are aware that we've got the Festival of Modelling coming up in this weekend. We are still working on the itinerary. It's just taking a bit longer to get together at the moment because some people don't know their schedules for the weekend yet, and we're just trying to kind of piece that together. So if it ends up just being me and Drew doing a constant stream of modelling, that's what it will be. So yeah, it's just tricky. It's logistics at the moment, but we are working on it. So it's still happening. And we will publish a menu at some stage telling you what's going on that weekend. Actually, we do have some fabulous guests lined up. We do have actually Mr. Ian Hartup, who's watching this evening, will be coming on to the show to talk about, I think it's the history of AMT kits.
He's just gone next weekend, like he's just shocked to real.
next weekend. And we're also lining up. I'm not going to name check them at the moment until I actually get it done, but we are lining up somebody who's worked for Industrial Light and Magic who's going to talk about filmmaking, model making. Brilliant. Yeah, so we're still working on it. It's like I say, this year it's just logistically it's just been more of a headache. So, but
I think part of it is that last year we knew SMW wasn't happening.
yeah.
This year it's been a long build up to the point where we now know it is happening, but it's kind of thrown not spanners in the works, but has kind of made our work more interesting, shall we say?
As befits the interesting modelling company. So, on that note, I'd like to say thank you for Drew for joining us tonight for our Halloween spookial. God, I'm never going to live that down.
Try again.
Try again. I got a year to get it right.
Yeah,
we will be back. We will be back on Wednesday in that there November.
Yes, welcome to winter. Clocks went back. Oh, glorious.
Technically still autumn, but I know what you mean.
Sorry, this is winter. I don't care what you say.
All right, fair enough then.
This is winter.
Just argue about the weather. On that note, I'd like to say thank you to everybody who's watched tonight. We'll be back on Wednesday. So until then, stay safe, stay out of trouble, and we'll see you then.
Take care, all.